tender.
It's hard to explain, okay? But
all day, all year round.
it's so mysterious.
This is who we are.
This is who we are. WADR.
WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and Accra, 1 p.m. in Abuja. Many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. This is Newslink, and here are the top stories. Bola Ahmed Tinubu takes oath of office as president in a historic power transition ceremony.
I, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Burkina Faso government tags Nigerian President Bazoum visionless leader as he questions its anti-terrorist strategy. Mali's transitional government summoned U.S. ambassador over visa restrictions and accusations. And the Ghanaian government finally lifted COVID-19 measures imposed at the nation's entry points following WHO's declaration.
Thus, all the outstanding COVID-induced restrictions at our airports and all entry points have been lifted, and we're back to the pre-COVID situation.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Imoh Edet with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us. Let's begin in Nigeria, where today, May 29, the country witnessed another change in power between two democratically elected presidents. The nation's 16th president, in the person of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, took his oath of office at Eagle Square, Abuja's nation's capital. Before him, Kashima Shettima took his oath of office as the vice president. Tinubu emerged winner of the February 2023 presidential elections after securing a majority of the vote to defeat the main opposition candidates, Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi of the Labour Party. The results from the controversial vote are, however, being contested in the court. President Tinubu, who many fear has both familiar and unfamiliar challenges as it takes over, assures of an inclusive dispensation.
I, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I will discharge my duties and perform my functions honestly, to the best of my ability, and faithfully in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the law. That I will abide by the Code of Conduct contained in the 5th schedule to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So, help me God.
Ahead of his handing over, the immediate past President Muhammadu Buhari reflected on his tenure, proudly listing the achievements of his administration. Buhari, during his last presidential broadcast, expressed satisfaction, emphasizing that he has exerted his utmost effort to improve Nigeria, surpassing the state he found back in 2015. Well, let's come back home here to Senegal, where security forces on Sunday interrupted opposition leader Ousmane Sonko's Freedom Caravan as he approached the capital city, Dakar. The government said the decision followed security concerns and the imminent threat of vandalism of both public and private properties. Sonko, after several days of staying in Zingesho, led what he called a caravan of freedom, holding a series of gatherings on the way leading him to the city center. Speaking Sunday evening, Interior Minister Antoine Job said the state did not arrest the leader of PSTEF but only supervised his safe arrival home. Job also confirmed the death of a person during a rally held by Mr. Sonko and his supporters in Kolda in the south. Recall the opposition leader and a presidential hopeful in the 2024 presidential race is expected to be handed down the final verdict in the alleged rape case filed against a beauty salon employee Ajisar on June 1. Here is the Senegalese Minister of Interior.
Vous avez entendu tous il y a quelques jours
A few days ago, you all heard the leader of PASTEF declare that he was going to organize a caravan of rallies. We've seen that in the first stage, there was loss of life. As the state is responsible for guaranteeing public order, we can't allow people to hold rallies for any reason whatsoever, or to express any opinion whatsoever, without the minimum rules of supervision being respected. And to do this, we first had to make a declaration.
That was Antoine Felix Diome, the Senegalese Minister of Interior. Meanwhile, ECOWAS citizens residing in the Gambia have raised concerns over challenges faced in the country in commemorating the regional bloc's 48th anniversary. During the ceremony, Mata Lily French, the head of the ECOWAS mission in the Gambia, emphasized the importance of upholding peace and security throughout the region. The occasion served as a platform for ECOWAS citizens residing in the country to shed light on the issues they encounter. From Banjul, Sankulu Janko reports.
To commemorate this occasion, ECOWAS citizens in the Gambia, in collaboration with ECOWAS Ambassadors Solidarity Forum in the Gambia, organized a meeting with the head of the ECOWAS mission in the Gambia. The purpose of the meeting was to establish a connection and foster familiarity between the ECOWAS mission and the ECOWAS citizens residing in the country. During the meeting, Kadiatu Kamara presented an overview of the status of ECOWAS citizens in the Gambia, highlighting some of the challenges they face.
Few years back, we were paying 1,950 for permit. This year, it went up to $3,650. Secondly, we are here in the Gambia with some of the communities who don't have embassy. We don't have sachet affairs.
In the meantime, Ambassador Mitia Lily French, the ECOWAS resident representative and head of the ECOWAS mission in the Gambia, emphasized the importance of peace and security in achieving the economic benefits that the community strives for.
People from Burkina are running to Mali, Sierra Leoneans will be running to Liberia, the Liberians in turn are going to Ghana and Ivory Coast. So it's not a very, very healthy situation for us to live in. So I think as we celebrate 48, by the time we get to 50, we should start talking about a little bit more stability. It's about a year old Dr. Toure took over. And for him, I think his biggest challenge is bringing peace so that we can focus on economics. Because if there is no peace, there cannot be economic development.
There are approximately 250,000 non-Gambian ECOWAS citizens residing in the Gambia, including businessmen, teachers, doctors, servicemen, and others. Michel Quivogui, the president of ECOWAS citizens in the Gambia, called for unity among members, recognizing its significance in fostering a cohesive community.
I am very glad to express here today by this press conference in order to strengthen unity, peace and security in West Africa and particularly in the Gambia.
The primary objective of the meeting was to enable the new resident representative of ECOWAS permanent mission in the Gambia to familiarize herself with the ECOWAS citizens in the country, strengthen relations between them, and maintain peace and security in the broader ECOWAS sub-region. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sankula Janka reporting from Banjul.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
The Burkinabe government has criticized Nigerian President Mohamed Bazoum, characterizing him as lacking vision. Responding to Bazoum's recent critique of the government's anti-terrorist strategy, John Emmanuel Drago, the Minister of Communications, stressed that soldiers from the West will not make sacrifices to protect Bazoum's country without a gain. As Ogebierika reports, President Bazoum, in a recent media interview, said the terrorist groups operating in the sub-region possess greater expertise than the armies combating them.
In response to President Bazoum's statement during a televised interview, the Minister of Communication emphasized that relying on armies from distant lands to wage these fights displays a narrow perspective, assuming that soldiers from the West would readily sacrifice themselves for the sake of other nations. Jean-Emmanuel Ouedraogo reiterated that the Nigerian president has indeed chosen to entrust his country and the fate of the fight to foreign countries. The entire strategy of the transition, according to Ouedraogo, is rooted in the firm conviction of the Burkinabe government. They firmly believe that their courageous defense and security forces, along with the volunteers for the defense of the homeland, VDP, backed by their citizens under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traore, will rise to the challenge. He assured that they will reclaim their territory and restore peace to their country independently. The Burkinabe Authority finds it regrettable that a head of state would perceive the terrorist groups to be more skilled than their own army. Recall April 26, 2023, Burkina Faso had already responded firmly to the criticisms of General Mahamadou Taka Dit Abo from Niger, who had belittled the Burkinabe strategy in combating terrorism.
Gabierika reported there. Still in the Sahel, the Malian government has summoned the United States ambassador to Bamako, Rachna Kohonen, over America's perceived accusations against the country. Government spokesman Kona Abdullahi Megana statement expressed the transition authorities' dissatisfaction of the United States' decision to impose visa restrictions on cabinet officers. Mega said the sanctioned officials are two esteemed officers of the Malian army. The travel restrictions imposed by the American government on the army chiefs follow their alleged involvement in the Mora massacre of March 2022. Abdullah Hassan completes the story.
The United States government on May 25 imposed visa restrictions on Colonel Mustafa Sangare and Major Lassine Togola, both officials of the Malian army. The American diplomatic authorities have accused them of being involved in human rights violations related to the Mora massacre, which occurred in March 2022 and resulted in the death of over 500 people, as reported by the UN. In addition, the U.S. Treasury Department has imposed sanctions on Ivan Alexander Maslov, the head of the paramilitary group Wagner in Mali. In the meantime, assets belonging to Maslov located within American jurisdiction, according to the U.S. government, will be seized. On May 13, the transitional government of Mali expressed its opposition to the UN report, which it described as biased in both approach and content. In response, the government initiated a judicial inquiry against the United Nations fact-finding mission and its alleged accomplices, accusing them of espionage, undermining the external security of the state, and military conspiracy. The Malian government has stressed that apart from considering the measures imposed by the United States as baseless and unjust, the manner in which the announcement was made undermines the presumption of innocence of the individuals involved and discredits the entire military institution.
Abdullah Hassan reporting there. The government of Ghana has announced the complete lifting of all COVID-19 restrictions at entry points throughout the country. This decision, effective from May 20, aligned to the World Health Organization's declaration that COVID-19 no longer poses a global health emergency. President Nana Akufo-Addo, during his 29th address to the nation since the start of the pandemic's onset, echoed the importance of maintaining sanitation-related precautions. Although these measures are no longer mandatory, the president advised the public to continue practicing them. Akufo-Addo also provided an update on Ghana's finalized bailout deal with the International Monetary Fund (IMF), which was concluded in May. WDL's Accra correspondent Atiwimbila Lawson reports.
The World Health Organization in January 2020 declared the COVID-19 pandemic as a global public health emergency. It wasn't until March of the same year that Ghana recorded its first cases, which prompted the implementation of various health measures such as vaccinations, testing, and other stringent actions to curb the spread of the virus. During a speech to the nation on Sunday, President Nana Akufo-Addo stated that COVID-19 is no longer a threat in Ghana thanks to widespread vaccinations, public education, and overall compliance with the preventive measures. He congratulated the citizens, healthcare workers, security services, and educators for their efforts while emphasizing the importance of not forgetting the lessons learned from the pandemic.
The COVID-19 task force, which I chair, met on 17th May and took some far-reaching decisions on the measures we have put in place for the management of the pandemic. The most important of these decisions was that the COVID-19 pandemic was over in Ghana. Thus, all the outstanding COVID-induced restrictions at our airports and all entry points have been lifted, and we're back to the pre-COVID situation.
In the same address, President Akufo-Addo provided an update on the recent IMF deal that Ghana has secured the previous week.
The International Monetary Fund has been most supportive, and we have ended up with having our program approved in record time, culminating in the formal approval by the IMF board on 17th May. The first tranche of 600 million United States dollars has been credited to our national account out of the 3 billion United States dollars that we have negotiated to receive within a period of 36 months. Fellow Ghanaians, access to the IMF facility will not spell the immediate end of the difficulties we are in presently.
The president also announced that this address to the nation would be the last one specifically dedicated to the pandemic. It marked the 29th address since March 2020. Reporting for Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Atiewin Imbila Lawson in Accra.
You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar and around the world on www.wadr.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Nigeria's President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu takes oath of office in a historic power transition ceremony. Burkina government tags Nigerian President Bazoum visionless leader as it questions its anti-terrorist strategy. The Ghanaian government finally lifts COVID-19 measures imposed at the nation's entry point following WHO's declaration. And still ahead, Liberian government inaugurates STEM to enhance the country's education system. We will be joining WDR's Usman Omar in Abuja for the presidential inauguration ceremony for live updates, and we'll also have sport news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
It's 60 minutes past the top of the hour. Don't forget you can listen to us live on WADR.org. The Liberian government, in collaboration with STEM Power Africa, has inaugurated the nation's inaugural Science, Technology, Education, Mathematics Lab, STEM. Vice President Joel Howard Taylor presided over the commissioning ceremony, marking a significant milestone in the nation's education system. The STEM program, initiated under the auspices of the Joel Starfish Foundation, aims to enhance and enrich the country's education system by focusing on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. WDR's Darlington Pop in Monrovia reports that the lab will provide students with valuable skills and knowledge in these critical fields.
Liberia is currently benefiting from 2 well-equipped digital labs as part of the program. These labs are located at the Young Women Christian Association in Congoton and the Bon County Technical College in Central Liberia. Vice President Joel Howard Taylor has expressed his enthusiasm for the program, stating that it presents a perfect opportunity for Liberian youth to explore the world of technology.
By the encouragement of Edwin and STEM Power Africa, I believe we are on a good footing. So we're asking all of the girls who are taking part in the skills training to make sure they go and get some skills, because whatever you do, this is going to be a part of your life. Whether you are producing, whether you are buying, whether you even need some supplies dropped to your house, you have to know how to use smart gadgets.
Edwin Kumfa, the Chief Executive Officer of Team Power Africa, considers these initiatives a significant milestone for the country's future generation.
The Africa we want to see.
Now you will agree with me that science and technology are the leading factors of change in the world of development. Therefore, the Africa we want to see can only be achieved through technology and science. And that is why Africa Power, we are trying to reach as many in the region, he said. He took the opportunity to urge African governments to prioritize investments in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM education. This, he believes, will help develop and retain scientific skills within the continent. A beneficiary of the program expressed gratitude to the Vice President and STEM Power for their efforts. The beneficiary also encouraged their friends to seize the opportunity presented by the program.
I would like to first thank our mommy. She's actually a role model for all of us young women in Liberia. Because with our initiative, with our passion to educate women, if you check the statistics, her passion is women. Because now if we start to check the numbers, we are over 5,000 women that have been educated from high school up to university and now vocational school.
This program aligns with the government's pro-poor agenda for prosperity and development, which aims to provide high-quality digital education to the youth of Liberia. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Darlington Pogba in Monrovia.
Let's take you now back to Abuja, Nigeria's capital, where thousands of dignitaries, including African presidents and representatives of the international community, have converged on Eagle Square for the inauguration of ceremony of the country's 16th president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The ceremony began as early as 7 a.m. Nigerian time, with security operatives deployed on major roads leading to the venue to ensure maximum security. Although it rained in the early hours of the morning, the procession is ongoing as planned. Joining us at the event ground is WDR's Usman Umar. Usman, good to hear from you, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Imoh. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, before now, Usman, what would you say were the fears of Nigerians?
Well, first of all, Imoh, I have to tell you that I have spoken with quite a lot of people before this morning, and I can tell you that depending on who you speak to, the moods differ. Of course, there are people who, up till now, are still hanging on to the fact that this is just a temporary swearing-in or inauguration ceremony. They still hope that the case is still lingering at the election petition tribunals will definitely swing in the favor of someone else and not the president that is sworn in today. There are also a section of Nigerians who can say the best way to describe what they feel is cautious optimism. In the sense that they say, of course, Nigeria has come a very long way. If you remember, before 2014, when President Muhammadu Buhari was still campaigning, and up till when he took power in 2015 and made a lot of promises with respect to what he was going to do in the key areas that he chose to focus on, security, fighting corruption, and creating jobs, they say he has failed woefully. And so therefore, with the new hope mantra being sung by the new president, the 16th president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they are only being cautiously optimistic. They don't want to lose hope altogether, but of course, they are being cautious in expressing their hope. So there are also the group who are, of course, for the president that has just been sworn in, who are saying that Nigeria is in for more positive vibes in the hands of this new man in power, the 16th president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So that is just the general overview of what many Nigerians spoken to feel as at this moment.
Well, Usman, you know there are so many expectations from Nigerians. What do you think President Tinubu would want to tackle first?
Well, from what he just, because your call just got hooked onto live broadcast at exactly the time that the president just finished giving his inaugural speech. And from the notes I have taken, I can tell you that you can say it's a deja vu of sort, a repetition of what we had from the president that has just flown to his hometown, the President Muhammadu Buhari. Of course, top priority for the president, the new president, from his speech, actually, he said he's going to fight terror that is bordering on security. And of course, he also mentioned the fact that there will be revival of the economy. And in this sense, he gave some hints, even though he said in the coming months, his team will unveil Nigerians with the full scale of what his policy direction is. He gave some hints, especially when he talked about revival of the economy, rather. He talked about power generation, job creation. He said there will be 1 million jobs created through digital economy. There will be agricultural hubs throughout the country. And most importantly, which before I answered your call, a lot of people are having to, discussing, is he said subsidy is gone. And that, as you will know, this is a very huge economic statement coming from.
Are we going to see some reactions, especially from the labor union, in this regard, Usman?
I can tell you, he is in for a ride. He is in for a ride because he, with emphasis, kept saying that even in the just passed budget, that there is no provision for subsidy, and therefore subsidy in Nigeria is gone. He said the resources being used to pay for subsidy will now be channeled to other activities such as provision of infrastructure. He talked about provision of rail services, transportation, water transportation, and even improving Nigerian roads and road transportation generally. So these are some of the highlights of what. Then, most importantly, he also mentioned tackling corruption. You remember, like I said, there's a deja vu. Buhari also mentions this, and he said how he's going to do this is to strengthen the anti-corruption agencies. He talked about looking at the act the law establishing these agencies and giving them a new face in order to be able to confront the modern way that the economy is challenged, especially by corrupt government officials. So a lot to handle, but of course, like I told you, the pronouncement from the president that a lot of people are already talking about at this moment is that subsidy is gone.
Well, very well, Usman. Remember clearly, you and I were in Abuja then when Buhari came in, and it took the former president 6 months to form a cabinet. Now, that's a major concern for Nigerians, looking at the fact that there has been controversy surrounding Tinubu's health, and even at the start, that's of the former President Buhari. So, how soon do you think cabinet formation will take place?
Well, thankfully for this time, we already have a law in place that mandates the president to name his cabinet within the next 60 days. But judging from the comments from the president himself and his handlers, even the Vice President Kashim Shettima repeated the same thing just day before yesterday, that the president will hit the ground running. And if this is to be translated to mean anything, this means that there will be no waste of time in announcing the cabinet, the team that will help the president to run this government. So we are hopeful. This is the first time, actually, Imoh, if you realize, this is the first time we are having a real politician who actually fought his way through to becoming the president of Nigeria. This is the first time. If you look at the history of the presidents we've had in the past, Olusegun Obasanjo, for example, from 1999, was brought out from prison by the powers that be then and installed practically. And when he was leaving, you remember the saga, he single-handedly picked Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, a Sikh governor then in Katsina State, and made him president. You remember how the election was even announced?
Exactly.
There were people who were still on the polling units when the president was announced winner. So, and of course, due to ill health and the eventual passing away of President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, it fell on Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who even from his days as governor, it just fell on him. And then, of course, that era passed, and it landed on the shoulders of the immediate past president, Muhammadu Buhari, who, of course, is coming from a military background, has been a head of state before and all of that. So he didn't actually fit into the box of a real politician. So this is the first time Nigeria is having someone who all his life has been in the struggle, and then he repeats it. Even in his inaugural speech, he actually repeated it, that it was a hard-fought campaign.
All right, Usman, we have to go. We have to go, Usman. Thank you so much for talking to us. And I know we will be discussing this in the course of the week. Usman Amaro there in Abuja. And here is Sport News with Sankli Janko.
Hello out there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. African champions Senegal have been knocked out of the FIFA Under-20 World Cup following a 1-1 draw with Colombia. Senegal's early exit came as a surprise after impressing in the Africa Cup of Nations when they won the tournament without conceding a defeat. The Teranga Cubs needed a win to secure a place in the round of 16, and they were on the verge of booking qualification when Mamadou Camara scored after half an hour. The West African side maintained the score for 90 minutes, but experienced a late heartbreak after Colombia equalized in the 95th minute of stoppage time to send them packing. Senegal finished the bottom of Group C with 2 points behind Colombia, Israel and Japan. Meanwhile, Senegal's neighbors, Gambia, finished top of their group after a goalless draw with South Korea on Sunday night. The young Scorpions are the only African country yet to register a defeat, having won 2 matches and drawing 1. The Gambia finished top of Group F with 7 points ahead of South Korea in second with 5 points. France and Honduras finished 3rd and 4th respectively. The Gambia will take on Uruguay in the round of 16 of the FIFA Under-20 World Cup. Nigeria faced a formidable challenge against Brazil in Group D. Despite a spirited performance, Nigeria fell short, succumbing to a 2-0 defeat, according to CAF official website. Despite losing to Brazil, however, Nigeria's early success secured their place in the last 16. The Flying Eagles finished 3rd in Group D, with 6 points behind Brazil and Italy, all finishing with same 6 points. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to the listeners in the Gambia via Hot 104.3 FM and in Liberia on Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM Lufo County, as well as in Ghana on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi. Inyas Bilmu and Mustafa Sek are the duty technicians. To interact with us on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, WADR News, and Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. I am Imoh Edet. Good afternoon.
News, talk, music, get it all 24 hours on West African Democracy Radio.
You can listen to us on 94.9